Good afternoon, class. My name is Parker Allsteins, and today I will be informing you on the Yellowstone supervolcano. Did you know that the entire area of Yellowstone National Park is a supervolcano? Geologists have predicted that Yellowstone typically erupts every 600,000 to 800,000 years. And if Yellowstone were to erupt again, it would not only affect the United States, but it would affect the world as a whole. As a geologist in training, I have had the opportunity to not only study but also visit Yellowstone National Park multiple times in order to fully understand what is happening geologically in the area. Using my knowledge and experience, I'm going to explain to you that when visiting Yellowstone National Park, you are going to want to consider a few things above and below the surface. In order to consider these things happening above and below the surface, I'm going to talk about the importance of the hotspot and track its previous and current movements, the hydrothermal activity in the area, such as geysers and hot springs, the overall size of the volcano and its warning signs for when it's about to erupt, and the aftermath of when and if Yellowstone is going to erupt. Now, it is important to identify the hotspot and track its previous and current movements. The Yellowstone region is a bit like Hawaii. It's part of a chain of volcanoes that progressively get older in one direction. A hotspot is a long, stationary feeder tube of magma that stretches from the upper mantle into the crust of the earth. The Yellowstone volcano is sitting on an active hotspot while the North American tectonic plate is moving to the southwest direction at about 1 inch per year. Hot springs, geysers, and lava flows seen in Yellowstone National Park today signify that in the northwestern corner of what we now know as Wyoming lies the hotspot. Now, Yellowstone National Park is at roughly 8,000 feet in elevation, and that's roughly 2,000 to 3,000 feet higher in elevation than the surrounding territory. The hotspot that's present today in Yellowstone was first active in the state of Oregon roughly 16 million years ago, but due to tectonic plate movement, the hotspot is now sitting underneath Yellowstone, and it has been for the last 2 million years. Now that we know what goes on in a hotspot and how it moves, we can talk about the hydrothermal activity present in Yellowstone. It is important to pay attention to all hydrothermal activity, such as geysers and hot springs. In Yellowstone National Park, there is 30 to 40% more heat being generated in the park area itself compared to the entire United States. Famous geysers, such as Old Faithful and the Norris Geyser Basin, can give geologists and scientists insight onto what is happening within the Earth. As for the importance of geysers, geysers are long tubes that extend deep into the Earth. Water collects into the tubes and boils from the underlying magma. Pressure builds from the water and steam, and once the pressure reaches its maximum capacity, it shoots up into the air. When all of the steam and water are fully emptied from the tube, the water recedes and the process happens all over again. The most common hydrothermal feature found in Yellowstone are the hot springs. Beginning as rain at the surface, the water of a hot spring collects, seeps into the underlying bedrock, and becomes superheated by the Yellowstone magmatic system. To further explain the hydrothermal activity, picture the entire park as an underground plumbing system. This system creates convection currents that allow the lighter, more buoyant, superheated water to begin its journey back to the surface, following the cracks and weak areas in the lava flows. We've now talked about the importance of the hydrothermal activity within Yellowstone, and we'll now talk about the overall size of the volcano and some warning signs before it's about to erupt. The current size of the Yellowstone volcano is 30 miles long by 45 miles wide. And when the volcano erupts, it will shoot hot rock and ash roughly 62 miles into the air. And yes, that is miles. Some warning signs and precautions include small-scale eruptions, increased earthquake activity in the area, and a fast uplift of the volcano floor. So essentially, the whole area will swell up like an inflated balloon before it's about to erupt. To keep tabs on Yellowstone, the USGS, which is the Geological Survey, and the University of Utah set up the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory in 2001. Researchers will listen to the subtle and not so subtle groans of the Yellowstone volcano, and they will use seismometers, global positioning systems, satellite sensors, temperature gauges, and gas sampling equipment in order to monitor the volcano. If geologists do notice a vast change in Yellowstone's main volcanic system, the observatory will notify and alert the general public and the public safety authorities. Evacuation plans have already been accounted for, but people will need to evacuate and either move to the east coast or down south towards Florida in order to remain safe. We've covered 3 of the 4 important aspects of Yellowstone, and we'll now switch our attention to the final major aspect. So finally, it is important to know what will happen to the United States when the Yellowstone supervolcano does erupt, because it will. Once the Yellowstone volcano erupts, it could spew ash for thousands of miles across the United States, damaging buildings, smothering crops, and shutting down nuclear power systems. The state surrounding Yellowstone National Park will be buried in over 3 feet of ash, and depending on the wind currents that month or that week, Wisconsin could see either half an inch or over a full inch of ash blanketing the entire state. In conclusion, it is truly amazing and powerful a place like Yellowstone can potentially be. Not only does it have beautiful scenery and beautiful wildlife, it also gives us an idea of what is geologically happening in that area. So, take what you have learned today and use this information to fully understand the destructive force Yellowstone can and will do when it erupts again in the near future. Thank you.